Hi, my name is Anne, and some of you know me from St. Peter's Church, and you have heard the stories of getting ready for Christmas, which were the 4 Sundays of Advent. And then, of course, we had Christmas Day, which was not a Sunday, and then we had the Sunday after Christmas. Now, Christmas is not just one day. Christmas is a season. And we have all different kinds of seasons. We have the season of Advent, we have the season of Easter, we have the season of Lent, and now we are in the season of Christmas. Except today is the Feast of the Epiphany, and this is the beginning of a new season. So Epiphany is not on a Sunday. Epiphany means appearing or showing forth. And this is the celebration of when the wise men got to Bethlehem to worship Jesus. And I know some of you are thinking, wait a minute, weren't the wise men there on Christmas Eve with the shepherds? And for a lot of us, if we have nativity scenes at home, we put everything out, including the wise men. But in fact, they weren't there on Christmas Eve. Now, the shepherds had been out in the field outside of Bethlehem watching their sheep, so it was real easy for them to get to Bethlehem and see Jesus. But the wise men came from far in the east, and it took 12 days for them to journey on their camels. They didn't just have one camel, they had a lot of camels. And they also probably traveled with a lot of servants, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So I'm going to read to you from the Gospel of Matthew in the Bible, the story about the Epiphany and the wise men. Now, when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, "Where is he who was born King of the Jews? For we saw his star in the east, and we have come to worship him." And when King Herod heard about it, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And gathering together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. Then Herod secretly called the wise men and learned from them exactly what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search diligently for the young child, and when you have found him, bring me word so that I may come and worship him." And they, having heard the king, went their way, and look, the star which they saw in the east went before them, until it came and stood over where the young child was. And when they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceedingly great joy. And they came into the house and saw the young child with Mary, his mother, and they fell down and worshipped him. Then opening their treasures, they offered gifts to him, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And being warned in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they went back to their own country another way. So that's the story from Matthew. But let's talk a little bit about the wise men. They're also called the 3 kings. They're also called the magi. And magi is the word where we get our word magician. Now, the Bible doesn't say that there were 3 of them, but we kind of think there might have been 3 because there were 3 gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So maybe they each brought one, or maybe there were more. But we do know that there were several camels and several servants who traveled with the Magi. We do know that they were very, very smart men. exceedingly brilliant. And we do know that they studied the stars. And they studied the stars almost constantly. And that's how they knew about this star, the new star. Today we would call them astrologers. And they were probably very rich, not like the shepherds. And they were probably quite important people, not only where they lived, but other people respected them a lot. Now they had seen this new and unusual star in the sky, and they knew that it told of the birth of a special king in Israel. The Magi would have known about the prophecies. Remember the prophets? The prophecies of a special Jewish Savior, also known as the Messiah, from when the Jews had been held captive in ancient Babylon 700 years before, several hundred years before. So they knew, they expected that there was going to be a Messiah, a Savior. Now there's a lot of legends and stories about the Magi, and these aren't in the Bible, but they've been carried on through the years and people still talk about them. And they've been given names. This one is Gaspar or Casper. He was the king of Sheba. He had brown hair and a brown beard. And you can tell by looking at his clothing that he was a rich man. And his gift for Jesus was frankincense. Now the gifts that the Magi brought to Jesus were not what you think that a baby would get. Not anything to cuddle with or play with. Frankincense, also called incense, is used in worship in churches still today. And it showed, when this gift was given to Jesus, it showed that people would worship Jesus. Now this little vessel is called a censer. And you can see that Casper has a lot of, not rope, but some, so that they can hold the censer. And if you've ever been in a church, I know we don't have it at St. Peter's, but some bigger churches have incense for special events, celebrations, and they put the incense in this censer, and it's kind of like charcoal. It's not a fire, but it's smoldering. And the person who's carrying this, and they've got the long chain, and they swing it around, and the smell comes out, and smoke too. Some people don't like it at all. I like it a lot. So that's Casper or Jasper. And then we have Melchior. He had whitish gray hair and a white beard. He was king of Arabia and brought Jesus gold. And gold is associated with kings, and Christians believe that Jesus is the King of Kings. And here we have Balthasar. He has a black beard. He was king of Tarsus, Macedonia, and Egypt. And his gift was a big jar of perfume called myrrh. And people used to put myrrh on dead bodies to make them smell nice. And Christians believe that it showed that Jesus would suffer and die. All these gifts are things that came from east of Israel in Arabia. So when they got to Bethlehem, they found Jesus and they gave him the gifts and worshiped him. Now he wasn't in the manger anymore, because this is 12 days later. He was in a house with his mother Mary and Joseph. And I think maybe someone lent them the house, but nobody would really want to be in a stable for 12 days. Now, Herod had asked the wise men to find Jesus and tell him where he was. But he was trying to trick them because he didn't want to worship Jesus. He wanted to hurt Jesus. He wanted to kill Jesus because he thought that Jesus sounded like a new king that could come and take his power away. He was very jealous and scared. But the wise men were warned in a dream not to go back to Herod. So they went home a different way. And when they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and told him to take Mary and Jesus to Egypt because King Herod wanted to hurt Jesus. So they left in the night and stayed in Egypt until the death of Herod, and it was safe to come back. Now think about that. The Son of God, the Savior of the world, was an undocumented alien as a baby. So this is the story of the Epiphany, and it showed that Jesus was not just for the Jews, Jesus was for everybody. So now we're going to go on to the Sundays after the Epiphany, and we're going to call this the growing season. And the next time I'll see you will be for Lent.